Dun Shows World.
Welcome to Shows World Gamers, Josh here, and as this week draws to a close, I wanted to take a moment to look at this week's biggest news stories, this week's gaming announcements, and this week's new video game releases. Now if this is your first time on the channel, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button to join in on all the fun we're having here on the channel in 2024. Alright gamers, let's kick off this week in review with a few news stories. Now the big news this week was that we did get our first big gaming showcase of the year, as Xbox had a developer direct giving us info on some upcoming games, including the unveiling of what has jumped to the front of the line as my most anticipated game of 2024. That's right, we got our first look at Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And, well, it looks amazing. With the targeted 2024 release date, I had some trepidation at the first-person gameplay, but the more they showed, the more it just looks like Machine Games may just deliver the indie game we have always wanted. They did also show a few other games at the showcase, and this turned out to be a pretty good showcase overall. Now, in some disappointing news that many gamers were actually hoping could have been a big surprise shadow drop at this week's Xbox Developer Direct, the long-awaited, heavily rumored Halo Battle Royale project that was said to be in the works at Certain Affinity and codenamed Project Tatanka, well, it has apparently been cancelled. Now this info does come from an insider on the Xbox Era podcast. No news from anybody at Xbox or Certain Affinity, as the title was never actually officially announced. Next up, let's take a look at some gaming announcements. Now Sandland had a new trailer drop where we finally got the announcement of the official release date for this awesome looking action RPG brought to us from the mind of none other than Akira Toriyama, best known as the creator of Dragon Ball and Bandai Namco. The game is based on Mr. Toriyama's manga by the same name, and the game is scheduled to release on April 26th for the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, the PC, as well as Xbox Series systems. Now during the Xbox Developer Direct, we did get an extended updated look at the long-awaited, very impressive looking Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga, which is looking, well, it just looks awesome. I really enjoyed the first game, and this sequel looks to be better in every way. And we did finally get the release date announcement for the game, with the game releasing on the Xbox Series systems, PC, as well as Game Pass on May 21st. Now, Homestars also got its release date trailer drop this week. This is the Square Enix game where you battle it out in multiplayer, third-person, four-person team battle combat arenas shooting foam. The game is definitely heavily inspired by Nintendo's very popular Splatoon series. The game is coming to the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 systems on February 6th, and it is being released on PlayStation Plus as a day one release. Alright gamers, let's finish up with this week's new video game releases. Now Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is the first big game out of the gate to kick off 2024, hoping to reignite the classic series and introduce to a whole new generation of gamers this awesome franchise. The game is taking its familiar time-bending gameplay and ancient Persian setting from the past games in the franchise and putting it into a layered Metroidvania-style game with challenging bosses and upgradable gameplay reminiscent of games like Metroid Dread. The game is out now on the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, the PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series systems, and early reviews are pointing towards this game just being an absolute huge hit. If you're on the fence on this game, there is a demo available on all systems too, so definitely check this out. I think the game's just a ton of fun. Now Palworld also released this week on the Xbox One, Xbox Series systems, PC, and it's getting a day one release on Game Pass. The game is a multiplayer open-world survival crafting game where you befriend and collect creatures called Pal to help you on your adventure. The game does hold a very strong resemblance to the Pokemon franchise, with one huge blaring difference. That's right, this game has firepower. This game has guns and, well, it's been monikered by many as Pokemon with guns. Now, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered released this week on the PlayStation 5. Now, this is hands down one of the best games ever, and this is the best version of The Last of Us Part 2. The combined story between the two Last of Us games is, well, just absolutely fantastic, and the gameplay is top-notch as you navigate your way through this post-apocalyptic world that should definitely be experienced by every PlayStation owner, with the warning that it is definitely mature rated with extreme and very graphic content. The remastered release does come with some additional content, but it is very minimal. Now, Golden Sun and Golden Sun The Lost Age are two classic turn-based fantasy role-playing games that released on the Game Boy Advance back in 2001 and 2002. And gamers have been clamoring for Nintendo to remake or just re-release these beloved classic games ever since. Well, we got the announcement last week, and finally, both games are available on the Game Boy Advance section of the Nintendo Online Service expansion pack right now. So if you're a fan of RPGs, definitely go check these games out. They're a lot of fun. Now, The Cub released on the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC this week. And if you're a fan of indie games like Inside, Planet of Lana, or the Little Nightmares style of puzzle platformer gameplay, this game would definitely fall in that same space, and personally, I really enjoy all those games. In Cub, you play as a young boy who was left behind on a post-apocalyptic abandoned Earth. But when an expedition team returns, you find yourself being hunted and must survive your pursuers. Alright gamers, that concludes this week in review for the week ending on January 19th. The week started with CES, the big consumer electronics show, where we get to see tons of cool new future tech and usually a little bit of gaming stuff coming to a close. Then, word came from Ubisoft that sales of the Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope have had a recent resurgence after its disappointing launch, which maybe we'll get a third game in the series, although I kind of feel like that's not going to happen. And the week ended with 2024's first big gaming showcase taking place with Xbox's Developer Direct, which means Sony and Nintendo fans are now clamoring for when we'll get our next State of Play or Nintendo Direct. But let me know anything we may have missed in the comments, and thanks for joining us today, gamers. Doge World, out.